Friday, day 281. I lie grizzled, but prepared. Card number 1 is Island. Why is it Island? Why you can always spoil my fun, basic lands. Ice Over is our actual first card of the day. This from Aether Revolt and Kaladesh Remastered, so really just Aether Revolt. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for an aura that enchants an artifact or a creature. The enchanted permanent does not untap during its controller's untap step. Simple and clean. I like a clean magic card. It ain't too shabby. I'm going to give this a 3.4. Nah, let's give it a 3.2. We've got way better removal than this, but still a pretty simple version of this effect. Sucks that it doesn't tap the guy down. Doesn't tap the thing down by itself. I'll give it a 3. We'll give it a 3. Next is Horobi Death's Wail. If you want this serialized version, it's $300 for a card you don't even know what it does. This is from Champions of Kamigawa originally, and you can get it for as low as 25 cents. This is 4 mana, 2 and double black for a 4/4 legendary spirit with flying. Whenever a creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, destroy that creature, bucko. That seems like a fun one to have in your commander deck. Really does. Good art by John Bolton. All the spirits from the original Champions set look so cool. It's just, look at that art direction, man. Look at that art design. Look how cool it looks. It looks awesome. Anyway, the spell itself is actually kind of nice too, to be honest. It ain't half bad. Take that. I like it. And you got a bunch of stuff in your deck that like isn't removal but does target. You know what I mean? And it's an ability whenever it becomes the target of an ability. So like that, you can game that in a lot of ways. What a cool card, man. Always been a cool card. I will actually give Horobi a 5.5. I think that you can do a lot once this is on the table. You really can, dude. Obviously falls prey to its own ability. Who cares? It's still really cool. Bloodghast. We're getting a lot of good black cards today. This originally printed in Zendikar here. It still cost, well, from Ether Drift, it cost $1. Look at that. Just $1 for Bloodghast. 2 black mana for a 2/1 vampire spirit that cannot block and has haste as long as an opponent has 10 or less life. Also has landfall. Whenever you landfall, you can just return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. Simple as. Again, simple and clean card here, man. It's easy to understand. 2 mana for a 2-power guy. Can't block. Sure, that's because it's coming back from your yard every turn. I get the design there. Bloodghast has always been great. You can't exploit this for sacrifice purposes as much as you can some other creatures, especially some other cheaper creatures, but it's still a good one to sack every turn and bring back. And if your opponent ever actually deals with it, no, they didn't. So I've always liked Bloodghast. It was a lot better back in the day, but still a fun one to play. So I'll give Bloodghast a 4.6, somewhere in there. I think that it's still fine, but not what it once was. Next is Kefnet's Last Word from Hour of Devastation. This is 4 mana, 2 and double blue for a sorcery. Gain control of target artifact, creature, or enchantment. Lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. It's pretty harsh. I remember all these cards. Pretty harsh, honestly, because, you want to tap your lands to do other stuff too. It's not just play this card in Commander. You want to use your mana, and if all you do is like tap down a couple of mana rocks and a land or two to play this, and then you kind of you can't tap any more lands down that turn, you feel pretty bad about that. But at least you get to untap your mana rocks next turn and use those. So that's a bright side of this, I guess. Gain control of darn near anything for 4 mana is pretty powerful, especially considering it's not a control magic, right? It's not an aura. They can make fall off or whatever and get their guy back. This is just you control their thing forever. And that is really, really strong, but geez, that's a downside. That really is a downside. I'm going to give this a 3.75. I think the downside's like pretty drastic. I do. Next is The Master, formed anew from Doctor Who. It's about 20 cents to buy. 10 cents, really. 2 mana, a blue and a black for a 0/1 legendary Time Lord rogue. Body Thief. When you cast this spell, you may exile a creature you control and put a takeover counter on it. You may have the Master, formed anew, enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature card in exile with a takeover counter on it. Okay. Exile one of your own guys, and this guy can enter the battlefield as a copy of that guy. That seems dumb. There's probably lots of ways to game that, though. There's probably ways to game that. You never get your guy back, though. Your guy's just gone. So that's kind of neat. Kind of lame, really. Because if you just copy an ETB trigger, maybe this guy's not your commander. Maybe he's in the 99 and he copies your commander while also taking over your commander, but it doesn't matter because your commander just go back to the command zone. I think he's pretty bad. Maybe that's why he's 10 cents. He's actually kind of bad. Nobody's figured out the thing you're supposed to do to get the infinite loop going. And maybe even if they have, that thing is bad. So, I don't know, guys. I'm going to give this like a 3. I think this is kind of genuinely not good. Seriously. So, let's move on to Voice of All. This we've done before. But it's cool. When it comes into play, it just gains protection from a color of your choice, which is gross. It could easily be gross, but we've done it before. We're going to do Splashy Spellcaster here from Wilds of Eldraine. 4 mana, 3 and a blue for a 2/4 elemental wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get a sorcerer role token attached to up to one other target creature you control. Why other? Why can't I put the sorcerer role token on this guy? That's really silly. That's so silly. By the way, a sorcerer role gives the enchanted creature +1/+1, and whenever it attacks, scry 1. Neat. I mean, it is a whenever you cast an instant or sorcery trigger, those tend to be pretty powerful. And in this case, the trigger is put a +1/+1 counter effectively on a guy you control. You can't put more +1/+1 counters on it, but also I guess the payoff here creates enchantments. And maybe you have a deck where you play a bunch of instant and sorceries and you want payoffs for that. But you also have like enchantress triggers or something like that, and this can put a bunch of enchantments into play. It's not that bad. It really isn't. I'll give it a 3.8. I will. I'll do that. I like a good whenever you cast an instant or sorcery trigger. I do. Next is the Shire from Alpha. This is from Lord of the Rings. It cost about $1. It's a legendary land, as you would assume. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you have a legendary guy. You can tap it for a green, or you can pay 1 and a green and tap it and tap an untapped creature you control to create a food token. So all food decks want this, and I think most commander decks might. Most commander green decks is like, oh, I have a legendary guy. My commander. So the turn you play your commander, you just play this, or the turn after you play your commander, you play this. And then suddenly you have an untapped green land that can just make a food sometimes as utility. Like, what's not to like? Like just a good kind of low opportunity cost utility land. I will give this a 6.5. 6.5. Sounds good to me. I think it's a card I'd probably play in most of my green decks. Why not? Agatha's Soul Cauldron up next, everybody. Agatha's Soul Cauldron set. This costs $45 to own a copy of. 2 mana for a legendary artifact. It's got a long text box. You may spend mana as though or mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. That's the one everyone forgets. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Nasty. Tap. Exile a card from a graveyard. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature that you control. So not only does it put +1/+1 counters on stuff, it also makes it to where creatures with +1/+1 counters on them have whatever activated abilities you want, son. It also lets you get activated abilities of opponents' creatures, which is pretty relevant, I think, more in Commander than it can be in Standard some of the time. This is obviously a bomb standard card that is seeing a lot of play right now, more so than ever, really, right now. But it's also $45 mostly because of its Commander playability. This is a disgusting card that a lot of combos come from, and even just kind of, it's kind of generically good. Like, even if you're not doing stupid crap with it, it's just kind of generically a powerful Magic card. So I have to get Agatha's a high score. It's very efficient to get into play, messes around in graveyards, make sure that, like, even if one of your guys dies, you at least get to copy its activated abilities. Spreads +1/+1 counters around in +1/+1 counters deck. It just literally does it all, and any deck can play it because of the casting cost. Wild Magic card that should have not been printed, but is so very good. I'm gonna give this card an 8.3. I'm going to give Agatha's Soul Cauldron an 8.3. This is an insane Magic card, right? Does it deserve more? Let me know in the comments if it deserves a higher score than that. I could almost go higher on it, but I think 8.3 is really high, and that is what I'm sticking to for now, but I could be convinced otherwise. I could be convinced it's like an 8.7. This is a really good card. But next is Midnight Haunting. This is originally from Innistrad. Pay 3 mana, 2 and a white for an instant. Put 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. Never a terrible deal. Just a worst Lingering Souls? Mostly worse Lingering Souls. You know, it's not fantastic, but never bad either. I'm going to give this a 3.6. A little bit higher than the 3.5 I would usually give a completely normal card. You know, but I think it's fine. But final card of this week, maybe we'll get a bonus one in, don't worry, is Lord of the Pit. I love this guy, man. The very first day my buddy Kevin introduced me to Magic the Gathering as a concept, I saw this man. And more than any other card that day, I think I stared at this one. It may have been a tie between this and Force of Nature and maybe Shivan Dragon. But his buddy had a Shivan Dragon. He didn't have a Shivan Dragon. Back then, Shivan Dragon was like $25. If you want a Shivan Dragon, you're the man. But Lord of the Pit, kind of the same way. This was like a $20 card back in the day. Now it's $10 from Revised. You can probably find a heavily played version for like $2. You know, so 4th edition, $1. You know what I mean? Really drops off between Revised and 4th in price. But yeah, Lord of the Pit is one of those legendary Magic cards. Like, it itself is not legendary. I haven't even told you what it does yet. But this was just king back in the day. Whether it was actually playable or not, no one will ever know. But you can ramp into it faster than a Shivan Dragon because you can play 4 Dark Rituals in your deck. And you can play Moxen and stuff like that too. But yeah, Lord of the Pit, man. Lord of the Pit. There was a certain segment of the Magic playing population in the mid-90s who this was like the Magic card. Like, you say Magic the Gathering, what card do you think of? This. Not Shivan Dragon. Not Black Lotus. Lord of the Pit, baby. 7 mana, 4 and triple black for a 7/7 demon with Flample. You must sacrifice a creature. I'm reading its own old text box here. I should read the Oracle text. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature other than Lord of the Pit. If you can't, this creature deals 7 damage to you. But note that it doesn't tap. A lot of times in old school Magic, if you failed to meet the sacrifice trigger, this would tap down. It doesn't. It can deal 7 to you and still swing it on your opponent's face. So, you know, if it's the last turn it's in play and you don't have any more creatures because you sacrificed the rest of your guys, your opponent's killed the other ones. So long as you're at 8 life, you can still win the game. You know what I mean? Lord of the Pit, man. Lord of the Pit. I don't think I want to do a bonus card this Friday. I want to put it out. Let's take it out on Lord of the Pit, man. I love this card so much. I really do. Like, this just reminds me, you look at it and you immediately feel 11 years old again. You know what I mean? Like, this is my nostalgic, like, happy place as far as Magic cards go. It's like this, Shivan, Sarah Angel, Force of Nature, Dark Ritual, Lightning Bolt. Like, this is in that grouping of cards, you know? And it's always going to mean a lot to me. It is. I'm going to give Lord of the Pit the honorary 5. I'm not even going to sully it by talking about what my actual score for the card would be. Let's not worry about that. Let's not worry about that. This gets the honorary 5. You should still try to play it on your commander table. See what people say. But that is all for this week, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you again on Monday morning. I can't wait to see you again. Bye.